Hello, welcome to Professor Skye's Record Review, the only first listen new music review show hosted by a French professor immediately after leaving the gym. So it's episode 216, and probably about 200 of those episodes have been dedicated to the work of Patricia Taxxon. She releases about an album a month, and this month she released two, so I've been quite busy. If you don't know about her, you can watch some of my older videos. I learned about her from a friend of mine who's really into the sort of YouTube youth leftist culture scene, and apparently her music is like one of the most important pieces of that whole interesting, interconnected international puzzle. So I've been listening to her, and this year I sort of had this idea of like really paying attention to everything she releases, and then maybe eventually trying to create some kind of playlist of her best work. Because this is the sort of thing, you know, she's young, I don't know how young, under 21 at least. And I think that the skill for the 21st century is going to be discernment. So like we have everything we need. We don't need to find anything. We don't need to get anything. But the real question is how to discern one from another. And so her output is so prolific. And for the most part, it's mostly good. But it also kind of works against her, because I think if she just made one album, like just an hour of music, took from all of her different modes and moods and just put it into one thing, it would be astounding. It would be excellent on a level that would be much more accessible than the way that it is. But I don't even think that's what matters. I actually don't think it is. I think that what makes her interesting is that she makes an album every month. It's a different mood. It's a different style. There's certain things that are consistent, but you're sort of on a journey. In a way, it's like a cross between like a vlog and art, if that makes sense, because you really follow along with her life. So I'm going to talk about these two records, Pix and Bit and Beauty. Now, you'll notice behind me there's video game characters. Who's going to be the first person in the comments to say what all the characters are and what games they're from? I'm not going to give you any prize. The prize is I do this channel and I provide some good music content. But see if you can name it all. Okay. And that's very intentional because the first album is called Pix and Bit. The cover has like these characters. I think they might be from Sonic, or they're Sonic inspired. And the album begins off with a giant blast of video game music, like super, like I listened to it and I was sort of like, oh geez, is this going to be like an hour of like just video game music? But it very much isn't. This is maybe her most developed work of the entire year. In order to illustrate this, I'm going to actually take a 3 songs chunk from the middle of the record and talk about that. I'll go through everything, but I just want to start with this chunk. There's a track starting with track 4 called Flap Flap, and it reminds me of her excellence with extended melodies. So when she writes melodies, they seem to go on sort of forever, and they extend over a long period of time. Her sort of general singing mode is sort of a nerdy sound. I don't really know how to describe it other than that. And at times when I was listening to this, I thought, this is such a great melody, but her voice sometimes a little bit goes a long way. Sometimes I'm in the mood and I could just listen to it all the time. Sometimes, like when I was listening to this record, I was a little bit frustrated. But at the same time, the fragility of her voice leads into the fragility of the music. She sings about being vulnerable all the time. I don't know what the song's about. I get the sense, based on my first and only listen, it's like about being a butterfly and like you don't want someone touching your wings because it hurts your wings to fly. I don't know. I'm probably wrong about that. But that was the impression that I got. And certainly it's a song about fragility and the need to fly, I suppose. So in that way, the voice works well. But still, by the end, I was like, I need a little bit of a break from the standard Taxxon voice. And then my desire was met. The next 2 tracks are awesome instrumental tracks. The first one's called Rocking Music, where it has kind of this swing sound to it, but nice kind of hard beats. These sort of like light arpeggios over some 2012-ish dubstep bass, which, by the way, Professor Skye's position on dubstep is it's awesome, and people are stupid for not making dubstep music. It's the greatest. Why did that have to be a fad? Why are other things that suck way more than dubstep still here? But dubstep was a fad. Anyways, it's not really a dubstep song, but it uses some of those like wow wow sounds, and it's excellent. And then followed by the next track, Take As Many As You Like, which there's two tracks that are fighting for my favorite track on the album. This was my first favorite track on the album. It's another instrumental, but this time it has a Taxxon-ish extended melody, but with no vocals. And the name, Take As Many As You Like, I don't know. But it's November. My prediction is that this is about the way it makes me feel. Let's just focus on me. Who cares what the artist thinks? Take As Many As You Like sounds to me like when I was a teenager and I would go trick-or-treating way past the age when I was supposed to. One year I went as the Bagheads from CB4. It's a super deep cut. And so like at the end of the night, you'll see the bowls put out on the porches. And sometimes they'll say, take as many as you like. So when I heard this song, I was imagining it as a soundtrack to a short film that I was making in my head about a bunch of teenagers, not like causing trouble, not throwing eggs, not setting cars on fire, just like being excited because you could take 3 Snickers as opposed to just 1. I don't know. Really nice distorted synth hits, really great layering. That's the thing. When you're doing so much computer production, again, I started off this whole thing talking about discernment. A good digital artist has discernment of when to layer and when not to, when to add sounds and when to take them away. And despite her youth, Patricia Taxxon shows a real good ability with this. So I'm just going to play you a little segment of Take As Many As You Like. Sometimes whenever I review her stuff, I get sort of my older contingent of viewers sort of saying like, don't like it. And I understand that because her voice can be off-putting. But really, this instrumental stuff, I think there's really something to hear. So. Just that nice kind of, all the sounds that are there and slight layering, but never too much. Really nice track. I'll eat the rest of that on my next. I'll eat that the next time I play his next song. Isn't that exciting? I'm building suspense. First, you don't know what the video game characters are, and now you don't know when am I going to eat the Satsuma mandarin. I'm such a good YouTuber. So that's sort of my review of the album in general, where the singing bits are good, emotional, fragile, but not too fragile. Like on the last album, Foley, like it was kind of like, are you okay? And this, it feels like, okay, you're okay. I'll get to that in a second. But that's sort of how it is. I would say the instrumental bits are the strongest, but I'll go through a little bit track by track. Why not? I already talked about the first one, super video game song, then Cilantro, which is kind of like a rap, like a super white rap thing, which in theory I hate because the lyrics are sort of like Beck lyrics, like nothing makes sense, like check out my cilantro. But it's well enough produced that I actually find it somewhat charming. But don't listen to it if you're on the fence about Patricia Taxxon. That's maybe some of her most annoying instincts, even though I think it's quite a nice track. And also, there's been a lot of stuff in her music lately, sort of about like living and dying, and one of the reasons I give for why we must always live is that we live in a world that has cilantro. So like, how could you not want to live when there's still cilantro to be eaten? Like if everything goes wrong in your life and you have nothing, you can still like find some cilantro. Anyways, that's my motivational speaker. Next track, Castle Sinclair, my least favorite. It's like, it's got a fiddle with video game music. It's well done, it's interesting, it's innovative. I don't particularly like it. Then the 3-song suite I just talked about. And then my true stamp of the album, 9 stars. It's this like interesting, earnest love song that turns into self-reflection, has my favorite lyrics on the album. I always make mistakes when I start to feel too safe. So if we're to take Patricia Taxxon at her word, through her music, through her sort of video blog music, that she's going through a lot of emotional pain at this point, this sentence is so true. It's how I've felt. It's how other people I know who struggled through, not necessarily depression, but just any kind of emotional distress. Often, you get so afraid of being safe. And it's a really weird thing that isn't gone into too much. But I think it's easy to talk about when things are bad. But when you're so used to things being bad, when things are good, you have a hard time being comfortable and okay. And this sentiment, I always make mistakes when I start to feel too safe, that makes me want to say, no, you're not making mistakes. The two things aren't correlated. Okay, they're correlated. Correlation, not causation. Feeling safe doesn't make you make mistakes. Okay. Speaking of mistakes, my dog is now walking into the other room because I guess the sunlight wasn't good enough in the other room. Crazy dog. Okay, so I'm going to play a little bit of this track. This has the most movement of any Patricia Taxxon song I've ever heard, meaning it sort of starts one place and goes somewhere else. It has a B section that's basically entirely different than the A section. I think this is a very good entry point if you're interested in Patricia Taxxon, because the beginning has that kind of nerdy singing, which some people find abrasive. But then like this crazy Casio thing, like lead comes in on the piano, and then the rhythm builds, and it's a great example of how she does a lot of stuff with like going just slightly off melody, slightly off rhythm, actually breaks into full-on polyrhythm at points here, and the voices are doubled but just a little bit off, and it's just this beautiful section. This doesn't really do it justice to play it through this speaker into this little microphone, but I'll eat my Satsuma orange, and you can listen to some of my favorite parts of the song 9 Stars by Patricia Taxxon. Let me get about 3 minutes in here. The nice thing is, she doesn't copyright strike any of her music. I can just play the whole thing for you, eating oranges. I'm not going to, but I could. It's so nice not having to worry about copyright. Okay. Okay, I talked over my favorite bit. Okay, I'm not gonna eat my last bit of orange. I'll save that till the end. So, as I like to say, I hope you heard what I heard. So interesting polyrhythms and real pain, vulnerable voice, and a selection of sounds and noises being put together in a way that's innovative and interesting at the same time. The next track is called Catch These Hands, which at first I was like, oh no, because the lyrics sound like Taylor Swift lyrics. Like, catch these hands, like, I'm so sick of the haters, man. Get out of the here and the haters. And I was thinking back to the week and a half that I followed her on Twitter, but it messed up too much how I see her as an artist. And I was just thinking of her like just brushing haters off. And I'm like, no, please, no. I'm so sick of no more haters songs. Okay, like Michael Jackson is sort of the king of anti-hater songs, and that's really where his music took a dip, because it's like, Michael, we don't care about the tabloids bothering you. Could you please sing about, I don't know, beating it? Oh, okay, I can't. Off the wall. Could you please make that instead of I hate people talking about me? But Patricia Taxxon is setting you up. It's a trap. It's tricking you. The song is actually about her need for love and affection. So catch these hands in terms of like, I'm going to hit you, becomes catch these hands as like, take my hands and hold me. So, surprise, it's a great song. Very meaningful. And again, I don't know. It's weird to hear somebody in such a different life stage than me singing in a way that I connect to, but it's because there's something universal about the difficulties of being young and having a confused mind. And I think if you're in a good place as an adult, you can really relate to that and really connect to it. Whether it comes from Billie Eilish, and super poppy, or Patricia Taxxon, like, we just need to be open to hearing these things. Okay, you've heard me say that enough. Birdsong, just kind of a distortion, disturbing song. Like, it's nice though, it goes between like electronic chirps and real birds. It's nice, but not as spectacular as the rest of the record. Kind of a simple song, Would You Please Wake Me Up? At this point, I started to feel a little bit of a Taxxon overload. I think it's the only song on the album that directly addresses the fact that she's transitioning. So that's interesting because she's saying, no one's told me I'm a beautiful girl yet today. From that angle, it's interesting. But at this point on the album, I was sort of emotionally drained because it's so emotionally there. But then it ends. I'll just kind of skip to the last song, I Haven't Died. And this is kind of tied into that thing I said about cilantro and oranges. There's still a lot of oranges to eat. But it's a nice, hopeful song. And it's a funny, hopeful song, right? Because if a song is saying I haven't died and that's supposed to make you feel happy, well, I mean, that sounds depressing and that sounds sad. But it's actually sort of what my daughter's been exposing me to a lot of like emo music, and it's sort of what a lot of good emo music does. It's like, it seems like it's about death, but it's actually about life. If you listen to, to people and they're singing about it, and really what they're saying is you have to live your best life, and sort of talking about death is one way of doing it. She's actually in the other room on the couch, so if I actually mention any more, I think she's going to explode. So, sorry. Are you even there? Yeah, she's homesick from school. All right. Okay, so I like this because it has a nice vocoder effect at the end, which she does great work with vocoders. It's very moving. It's a good, nice ending. And actually, it reminds me of a movie that I saw the other day, which you probably saw too, Frozen 2. So Frozen 2, narratively, is a pretty good mess. Jenny Nicholson has a great video about it. But there's some great things in it. And there's this song that's called The Next Right Thing. And it's basically about her, Anna's like she's like, I'm going to die. Like, I'm just going to die. Everything's terrible. The kingdom's over. Rot is everywhere. I welcome death. But then she just says, well, I just have to do the next right thing and take the next right step. And it's really the only thing to do when you're in a bad spot. And I think this song is kind of like a non-musical version of that. Because it's like, when you're as low as you can go, and I suppose when you're suicidal, I don't know if you're suicidal, but that's as low as one can go when one's depressed. The best thing you can say, the first way to get out of it, is just to say, I am not dead. I am alive. Bring on the cilantro. Okay. After all that, I was like, I don't think I can do another Taxxon album. This has been a lot. I mean, this is really emotional. I've been following her all year. But the next album, Beauty, is fortunately a breeze. It's all instrumental, so we don't have to work through all these tough emotions that we're either feeling now or used to feel. It's defined as Nightcore on Bandcamp. Did she make that up? Is Nightcore a thing? Is this what Nightcore is? Can someone give me a definition of Nightcore in the comments after saying, where all these stuffed animals come from? I don't know. If this is Nightcore, I think I like Nightcore. The first track is You. It's just some pop song, but it's like tuned up, and then like has some like house keyboards and drum machines put on top of it. Most of this album is like that. I'm just kind of like what are you doing? I don't know, but it's nice to listen to. I'll play you an example of what that sounds like, just because I'm not going to get copyright struck. So you can hear what most of this album is like, if it ever plays. So in the background, there's some pop sample, and then she puts on like very kind of a jungle drums on there, and the whole thing's like that. And it's basically just stolen melodies, I believe, from other people, but manipulated in interesting ways. The most interesting, well, not the most interesting track. The moment that was the weirdest for me was track 3, which is Pieces of Me, in which she plays on keyboard the melody of Kanye's God Is from Jesus is King. So I'm like, of my 216 videos, all 216 are either about Patricia Taxxon or Kanye West. So it's kind of a weird worlds colliding together. But I think it's sort of in the spirit of this record. And part of what makes Taxxon great and why she needs to stay on Bandcamp, I guess, and never go on Tidal and never really make money. Because she doesn't care about copyright at all. She'll just take things entirely and chop them up and move them around and make something interesting out of it. And sometimes what she's making is more of a atmosphere, more of like a soundtrack than like a specific album. And that's how this whole beauty thing sounds. Everything's just kind of beautiful, everything's relaxed. And the song Quiet is quiet, like it says, just sort of peaceful, respite in the midst of all this sort of emotional turmoil. And then it ends with Color, which is the most sort of hands-on track. It's got some nice chopped up tracks, very well layered, and the words, well, I'm confused, over and over again. So there it is. There's Patricia Taxxon's newest double hit. I guess the next one I'm going to review is going to be my Taxonomy, where I try to make a single album based off her best work of the year. So I don't know if I could do that on Bandcamp. I don't know. Okay, well then, until next time, I think I know what I'm going to review next time, but I'll have to keep it suspense. Like, am I ever going to eat the last piece of the Satsuma? Who knows? All right, till next time. There's the camera.